sometimes controversial, always politically incorrect, and pro-life without exception, without compromise, and without apology. It's the Pro-Life America podcast with your hosts, Sarah Waits and the president of Life Dynamics, Mark Crutcher.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Pro-Life America podcast. This is Sheila Crutcher, Mark Crutcher's daughter, and across from me is Sarah Waits.
Hello everyone. We want to apologize for not having an episode last week. We were having some logistical and technical issues.
And we're working hard to get those animation videos, Abortion Distortion, out.
For anybody who doesn't know, we've come out with a new series called Abortion Distortion. They're animated videos challenging pro-choice rhetoric, and we've got 17 episodes out now, and more is going to be released weekly.
And they're short videos, around 1 minute long, so you can, share them easily.
Binge them easily.
Right. But this was my dad's latest project that he had been working on. So many scripts. So we're getting those videos out now.
We're really excited for it, so go check it out. We hope to have just a pure audio version that will be dropping in the podcast here shortly.
Right.
And speaking of new things, we have a listener question. Chuck wanted to know, how do we stay informed? And most importantly, how do we choose our topics for the podcast? As far as determining the topic, it's just kind of whatever strikes us based on what's in the news, or like in the case of our episode a couple weeks ago that we had where it was talking about the challenges of being pro-life. It's just things that pop up in our life that, kind of speaks to us. And when, it was me and Mark doing this show, I would bring him questions that I had, being newer to the pro-life issue, that for him didn't strike him as big things because he was in it a long time. And so those are just kind of a few different things that inspired different topics, questions that we had, or things that we've seen.
And we get a lot of topical information, like social media, the godless media, as my dad would say. Just a variety of places. As pro-lifers, it's important that we're well-rounded and well-versed, so that we can defend the issue, unlike pro-choicers who just have to say my body, my choice, and just repeat the marketing slogans.
Yeah.
So it's important that, you read, watch, video, listen to audio.
Well, I think an easy tip for anybody who wants to be as informed or kind of notified as we are about stuff that's going on, one good thing that you can do is you can sign up for notifications from Google about articles that come out relating to abortion. Another thing that I do is I will follow the really liberal outlets out there, and they'll usually have something about abortion, and that kind of inspires some of our topics. Like, okay, this is what they're saying this week.
Exactly. So just get well-rounded.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of staying informed, I don't know if many of you heard, but 5 of the 9 pro-lifers who were facing FACE charges, which, for those who don't know, FACE means Freedom of Access to Clinic Entrances, and it prohibits individuals from attempting to injure, intimidate, or interfere by various means with anyone obtaining or performing an abortion.
Right.
So anyway, 5 of the 9 who have been charged with that have been found guilty, and this was related to the rescue event in 2020 at abortionist Cesar Santangelo's clinic, Washington Surgery Center.
A group of people, including, Red Rose Rescue, and it's been talked about on the podcast before.
Yeah, we have an interview with Jonathan Darnell, who is one of the pro-lifers who was facing conspiracy and face charges because of this event. And if you haven't gone and listened to that episode, we really recommend that you go listen to that now. He's one of the people who has not been to trial just yet.
Right. But there has been a resurgence of, people who are doing rescues. And the Red Rose Rescue in particular goes into the abortion clinic and gives women roses to, say, hey, there's help for you. You don't have to kill your baby.
But they're not the only ones. PAAU has been involved with some of that as well.
But like I said, there's been a resurgence of this. And So the Biden administration now is trying to persecute pro-lifers. I mean, this is like deja vu all over again. Like stuff like this was happening with the Clinton administration in Reno.
Yeah, right after Dobbs came out, Attorney General Merrick Garland released a statement committing to the use of FACE to protect abortion. And not long after that, he launched a reproductive rights task force with an announcement that cited FACE. So, I mean, they're going to be using FACE to go after pro-lifers, especially with the way everything has been handled about abortion on a nationwide scale. So this is by no means going to be the only cases that we see. Like I said, we have a few more defendants are going to be tried beginning September 6th. But there's a couple of things about this trial that I think people should know. So after they were found guilty, the judge, Colleen Collar-Cotelli, asked the Department of Justice whether they thought that they committed a crime of violence under federal law. And after deliberation, DOJ attorney John Crabb said he believed that they did. Now, the reason why they asked this question was if it is determined a crime of violence, the pro-lifers would be immediately incarcerated as opposed to waiting till sentencing and all that. Now, I did not see anything showing a crime of violence or using force.
Well, I mean, they always claim that, you know, pro-lifers are, so violent and threatening, blah, blah, blah. But it's really abortion advocates are the ones that, you know, are the violent ones and threaten people. I mean, they shove pro-lifers and, you know, they assault them. But again, this is the Biden administration going after people under FACE in order to shut down the pro-life message and the pro-life movement.
Something else that's important about the trial that people may not know of is that defense attorneys plan to use photos and video footage of the remains of aborted children to help make their case, you know, defense of persons, that sort of thing. However, the judge held a pretrial conference where she warned attorneys that she would not allow claims that the defendants were acting in defense of other persons, and they were not allowed to use certain words like infanticide, abortion, or innocent life. So basically, she hamstrung their arguments. She also refused to alter jury instructions after the defense requested a provision related to the Born Alive Infants Protection Act, which is a federal law requiring life-saving care for abortion victims. She also dismissed live actions footage of Santangelo as gossip. So the judge allowed several things to really hamstrung their case. And anytime a judge says you can't use certain words, I feel like it should be unconstitutional because that's interfering with a right to a fair trial.
Well, I mean, it's censoring them, number one. And you're right, it's unconstitutional, but they can't allow the truth to get out. Because if you have, you know, these defendants who go up and show the truth about the unborn, they can't have that. That shows, you know, abortion in a bad light. But again, you have to remember this stuff happened all the time under the Clinton administration. And the pro-life movement continued on. The pro-life movement survived. And so that's what we have to remember now under the Biden administration. It's not the end of the world. It's terrible, but we got to keep on going.
Speaking of the Biden administration, I'm not sure if people heard about this, but at the end of June, a new act was put into place, which is called the Pregnant Workers Fairness Act. And it was a bipartisan bill that protects women and life, and it requires every employer in America to reasonably accommodate a worker's pregnancy, childbirth, or related medical conditions. It was intended to guarantee that no woman would be penalized professionally for having a child, right?
Sounds reasonable.
Sounds reasonable. You did not mention abortion. It's about pregnancy and basically protecting women from employers trying to coerce them to have abortions, right? In fact, Senator Bob Casey, who is a Democrat, who co-sponsored the act, clarified in December 2022 that under the Pregnant Workers Fairness Act, the Equal Opportunity Employment Commission could not issue any regulation that requires abortion leave, nor does the act permit them to require employers to provide abortions in violations of state law. He said that the reasonable accommodations include things like a stool, water bottle, reduced manual labor, stuff like that, right? But on August 7th, the Biden administration announced that this will also require employers to accommodate elective abortion using the rationale that the whole pregnancy, childbirth, or related medical conditions, wording in the bill, includes termination of pregnancy, including via miscarriage, stillbirth, or abortion.
Right. They have to get abortion in there. I mean, the Biden administration, no matter who you believe is in charge, they are unapologetically pro-abortion, and they are going to do everything that they can to push abortion. And even like cases like this.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Well, and the thing that bothers me, besides the fact that they're forcing abortion, they justify this by lumping abortion in with miscarriage and stillbirth. I mean, and this is a common thing that you will see the pro-choice side do. They'll talk about the ending of pregnancy and they'll relate it to miscarriage and stillbirth.
Right.
There is a very big difference between the intentional ending of a human life and a miscarriage.
Exactly.
And it is a slap in the face every time that they lump abortion in with miscarriages.
Right. I mean, this is their latest tactic, is to confuse the issue of abortion and miscarriage, making it seem like the same thing. And it's not. And like you said, it's insulting to women who have had miscarriages. I mean, that's saying that abortion is the same thing. No. Women who have had miscarriages are upset about it because they know that their baby died and they didn't want their baby to die. Whereas women who have had abortions, they intentionally had their baby killed.
Yeah.
Speaking of upside down and, you know, wrong is wrong and right is right type thing, there are two stories we want to talk about from the UK. The first story is that Liam Taylor, a 37-year-old man, stabbed his girlfriend 40 times, including some stab wounds directed at the 22-week-old baby, which killed both her and her unborn baby because he wanted a boy. Also, it turns out that this guy has had a long, you know, rap sheet of violence and, you know, being in trouble with the law and stuff. But the thing is, the prosecution argued that Taylor had intended to kill the baby, but they didn't want to bring charges of child destruction against him because the baby was in the legal limit for abortion. So they're just going to bring charges about the murder of her. But
So what they're saying, her murder was wrong, but the baby's was not wrong because the child was 22 weeks old and was still legal to be aborted. So
exactly.
He aborted the child. That's not the problem.
Yeah.
The problem is he killed the woman.
Right. I mean, and they, you know, they said that he had every intention of trying to kill the baby, but, legally, you know, it's still in the limit, so...
You know, this is not the only case. I mean, we have seen cases like this over here. In fact, we have a report called the Under the Radar Violence Report. And there's so many cases in this report. And every single woman was killed because she refused to have an abortion.
Right.
We didn't even include the cases of the women who were injured and survived. These are just the women who were killed. And some of these females in this report are as young as like 14, 15 years old.
Right.
And the thing is, when you have legalized abortion, when you have the option to treat life as disposable and a matter of convenience, right? You're going to have men who use abortion as a safety net. And if
Right.
a girl decides she doesn't want to accommodate him, well, then she's the problem too. And
exactly.
I mean, when you convey that life is disposable, how can you parse out this woman over here's life is valuable, but not the baby?
Right. And I mean, you don't hear abortion advocates talking about this because this goes against the my body, my choice and, you know, pro-choice rhetoric. And they can't admit that, you know, abortion hurts women.
Yeah, they sweep it under the rug. And all these women who've been killed because of this, well, they're just a casualty of legalized abortion.
Yeah. Who cares about them, right? That's what they think.
Yeah.
The second story from across the pond is about a UK nurse named Lucy Letby, who just recently received a life sentence for murdering 7 babies and the attempted murder of 6 other ones at a hospital in northern England.
Now, these are just the ones that she was convicted of. She
Right.
was charged with 22 counts, 7 of murder and 15 of attempted murder involving 10 babies. And the other thing to remember about this, the murders and attempted killings that she was charged with took place during June 2015 and June 2016 when she was a nurse at the neonatal ward of that hospital.
Right.
However, She worked in the neonatal unit from 2011 to 2016. So how many other babies do we not know about?
Exactly. And she claims that these babies died of natural causes. But in her home, there were found handwritten notes, including notes like, I am evil. I did this.
She had several different ways that she killed the babies. Some of them she killed them by injecting air into their stomachs and bloodstreams.
Right.
Some of them she laced the feeding bags with insulin.
Right.
Some of them she overfed, and then there was a few that they just described as physical assault. Now, it can get kind of gory, so I don't think we should go into all the details, but I do have a link in the description if you want to go read it, of a BBC article which details all the different attacks on the infants and which ones she was convicted of, if you're interested in reading more.
And what makes me upset about this is that there was a big outrage over this. And I mean, as well as should be. But what about the outrage about the unborn? So people are saying these, poor innocent babies were killed by this horrific person. They were tortured to death, horrible deaths. But yet they just sweep the babies that are killed by abortion under the rug.
Well, and the thing that's important, too, about this is the babies that she was charged with caring for were premature births and ones who were suffering from complications, right? So these are the most vulnerable of all babies. And many of them had not been outside the womb for long, right? But if it had been 20 hours before, like 48 hours beforehand,
Right.
in some places that would have been legal for her to kill them.
Either a person is a human being or they aren't.
Absolutely. And so it doesn't matter if they're still in the womb, outside the womb. It's all the same thing.
Right. A human being is a human being.
And I think it's really interesting. Before sentencing, Judge James Goss said Letby orchestrated a cruel, calculated, and cynical campaign of child murder involving the smallest and most vulnerable of children. And that is perfectly what abortion is.
Exactly.
I'm like you. I mean, this is obviously outrageous and despicable and horrible. But I think we're blinding ourselves if we say that this is more horrible than what's going on with the unborn in the womb.
Right. This goes perfectly with the From the Mouth of Mark quote this episode from one of his blog posts called In the Fear of Shadows, which was posted May 2010. Mark said, "We continue to tell ourselves that we are a civilized nation while simultaneously sanctioning the wholesale slaughter of what we know to be innocent human beings. Each of us knows that the act of abortion is murder, but that knowledge cannot be reconciled with the reality that we made abortion legal. So we no longer call it murder. Now it's just called a choice. What we conveniently ignore, however, is that this voluntary self-delusion always comes with a price. What we are seeing today is that while we may still believe in the vision of America, the distinction between vision and hallucination is fading. By violating our own moral code, we have created a world for ourselves in which unforeseen and unintended consequences pace in the shadow like starving tigers."
I think that is absolutely on point and very beautifully written. Absolutely. Yeah. All this stuff kind of shows like this is the symptom of, like I say, treating life as disposable. That's what you get with legalized abortion.
And all the stuff that you're seeing that's happening today around the world, culturally and politically, economically, immigration, just every single thing is tied to abortion.
Well, just look at these two cases from the UK.
Right.
It is self-delusion to look over at Lucy Letby and condemn her.
Right.
While looking over at Liam Taylor and saying, okay, well, what he did was horrible, and we're going to charge him for the murder of his girlfriend.
Right.
But we can't charge him for the murder of the baby because it was still in the legal window for abortion.
When you have legalized abortion in a society that loves abortion, nothing makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if you have a suggestion for a show, or if you have a question about abortion that you would like us to feebly try to answer, make sure you submit it using the form on the Pro-Life America page of our website. That's lifedynamics.com/podcast. We love hearing from you guys. Thank you again from Chuck M. for your listener question.
And until next time, Life Dynamics is not here to put up a good fight.
We're here to win.
Because winning is how the killing stops.
We'll see you next week, guys. I'm sorry. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Right. Bye.
Bye.